We're always told that we should never talk about people behind their backs. Yet, I always thought if I'm speaking nicely about them, then why can't I talk about them? But anyway, we don't really have that problem because the person I want to talk about today happens to be here with us. Allow me to introduce you guys to my buddy, Jerry. Now, a couple years back, Jerry's alarm clock would go off and he'd immediately hit snooze. 9 minutes after that, he'd hit snooze again. And then 9 minutes after that, snooze. And then 9 minutes after that, he finally realized that it was already 8:42 and he had to shave, shower, brush his teeth, and get to work all before 9. He'd stroll in a couple minutes late and he'd hide his face behind his briefcase, and just as he got to his desk ready to let out a big old sigh of relief, he'd hear his boss scream, "Late again, Jer." He'd walk over to his desk, smack down a load of papers, and he'd tell Jerry to get to work. This happened day after day after day. Jerry was going through the motions. He was running on the hamster wheel of life, completely unaware of the life that he could be living. He was a 23-year-old with unlimited potential, amazing resources, and a tremendous opportunity to make a difference in the world. But he had no clue of that at the time, because my buddy was just ready to keep running on that hamster wheel, because that was all that he knew. But lucky for Jerry, he happened to have a cute little hamster. And even luckier, this adorable little guy did not like to run on his teeny, tiny hamster wheel. Jerry would find him in his shoes in the closet. He'd find him sneaking around in his pillows. He'd scurry around on his desk. He'd basically go everywhere in Jerry's room except for on his teeny, tiny hamster wheel. One day, when Jerry got home from his normal job at the same normal hour as always, he went into his normal room, plopped himself down onto his bed, and he looked around for his not-so-normal little hamster. But to his surprise, his hamster was not in his cage, and he was not in the closet, he was not in his pillows, and he was not scurrying around on his desk. Today, Jerry's hamster had made an amazing leap onto Jerry's bookshelf, and he was stuck in between the front cover and the first page of Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. How wonderfully convenient. Jerry had gotten the book a couple months back as a gift from an internship he did, but he never read it. But over the next 3 hours, Jerry read every single word. He was glued to the advice, reinvigorated by the positivity and meaning this book brought to his life. For the next few months, when his alarm clock would go off, instead of hitting snooze and rolling back over, Jerry would approach the day with excitement. He was like a totally new person. He'd read more self-help books, he'd listen to podcasts, and he'd read article after article about how to live a more meaningful life. But fast forward 2 years, and my buddy Jerry started to face the same sort of existential quarter-life crisis that he did when he was 23. But why? I didn't even understand how that was possible. He'd read all the self-help he could get his hands on, and he knew exactly what the experts said he should be doing. So Jerry would go into that normal room of his, and he would think, why is self-help not helping me? And the answer came down to this. On Monday, Jerry would learn the power of being patient from his favorite podcast host. But on Tuesday, that same podcast host would talk about never waiting to follow your dreams. On Wednesday, Jerry's thoughts were so jumbled he felt like he knew absolutely nothing, which in turn made him do absolutely nothing. On Thursday, he was taught the importance of finding your why, but on Friday, he was told that your why can only be found through random life events you can't control. So on Saturday, he wondered why he ever tried to find his why in the first place. On Sunday, he was told to outwork everybody else, but on Monday, he was told to never compare his work to other people. So on Tuesday, he was so confused, he did no work at all. Not all of the advice was directed toward Jerry, but he didn't realize that. There were so many thoughts coming at him from all different angles that all he wanted to do was crawl into bed and hit the snooze button. He was going down a rabbit hole of personal development doom. But as you guys know, lucky for Jerry, he didn't have a pet rabbit. He had a cute little hamster. And even luckier, one day when Jerry was about to hit the snooze button for 9 more minutes, he noticed that his furry little friend was not in his cage, and he was not in the closet, and he was not in his pillows, and he was not on his desk. Again, this little guy had made the miraculous journey onto Jerry's bookshelf. Jerry grabbed his little pal, and he noticed the book he was so casually lounging on top of. And what do you know? It was Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, a magical fable about following your dreams. Again, Jerry had meant to read it a little while back, but it didn't really fit in with all these expert, research-backed approaches he was so used to. But over the next few hours, Jerry read, and he read, and he read some more. This book opened up a new world for Jerry, and he was able to use his imaginativation in order to become an active participant in that new world. And yes, you did hear me correctly. I said imaginativation. It's imagination plus creativity plus interpretation plus implementation. And just like that, Jerry had a new way of living. He had a new kind of book to read. He had a newfound appreciation for stories, parables, and allegories. This is how we maintain our personal growth. This is how we do not get stuck in that personal development rabbit hole. This is how we overcome information overload, contradictory opinions, and advice that may not necessarily be directed toward the kind of person that we truly are. When Jerry read books like The 5 a.m. Club, The Go-Giver, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, anything by Mitch Albom, or The Journey to Cloud 9, he was able to uncover things about himself that he otherwise never would have had he continued to robotically consume self-help advice and just expect it to work wonders. Jerry also had this really cool opportunity to talk to some of these amazing authors and storytellers like Dan Millman, Bob Berg, John David Mann, John Gordon, Josh Kaufman, and he noticed 4 key ingredients that really set parables and allegories apart from the rest of the personal development world. First, it's about the journey, not just the destination. By following an entertaining story, readers are able to be more present, more focused, making them more likely to make realizations about their own lives. Second, there's a stronger emotional connection. The readers are able to feel the advice, not just be told it, making them more inclined to want to feel or not feel how the characters do within the book. Third, stories help to reduce some of the stress. Honestly, sometimes it feels like self-help books can be more stressful than helpful because it seems like if we don't follow the advice to a T, then we will not succeed. But if we uncover some of the advice through these stories, then we're able to take some of that stress off and we're able to take things a little bit less seriously. And finally, we're encouraged to use our imaginativation. So, after finishing up The Alchemist, Jerry used his imaginativation in order to plan out the life of his dreams. He imagined a world in which he gets to impact millions of people. He creatively worked backwards, realizing he'd need to give talks, go on podcasts, and write books in order to make such an impact. He interpreted why he wanted to do this, because ever since he was a little kid, he had a soft spot for the human condition, and he's been trying to make somebody else's day just a little bit brighter every day since. And last but not least, he is currently in the midst of implementing his plan as he stands up here today giving a TEDx talk to all of you. All right, fine, you got me. I may be Jerry, but this story is not totally true. Sadly, I don't have a magical little hamster with extraordinary taste in literature. And to be quite honest with you guys, in my tiny apartment in New York City, I don't even have enough space for a bookshelf. I just kind of stack my books up on top of my nightstand. But I was living a life in which I was going through the motions, not living up to my full potential. I hopped off life's hamster wheel when I discovered self-help. I hopped back on when I realized that there were too many people telling me too many different ways to live my life. And I hopped off again when I started reading parables and allegories, realizing that I could make my own realizations about the life that I truly wanted to live. When you go home today and you begin to envision the life of your dreams, please do not remember me or the hamster I do not have, but rather remember Jerry. The journey, the emotional connection, the reduced stress, and the imaginativation. J-E-R-I. The next time you feel stuck or you feel like self-help is not helping, remember my buddy Jerry and his cute little hamster who never wanted to run on his teeny tiny hamster wheel. Thank you.